everybody. I hope I can instill some sense of enthusiasm in each one of you in this room. I know after the beautiful, lovely lunch and all the sessions, all of you are quite relaxed at this moment. But just hold on for this session, and after that, there's another good session coming your way, which is the beer session. All right. So you guys can enjoy accordingly. Take care. So let me take this opportunity of introducing Anshul. Have been acquainted with him for quite some time. Anshul is the category head foods at PepsiCo. A big round of applause for Anshul, please. And the man in the middle, Mr. Dylan. He is the senior director marketing at Reckitt Benckiser. And a big round of applause for him too, please. Thank you. Thank you so much. A very good evening to the two of you. And thank you for taking your time from your busy respective schedules, Dylan and Anshul. Let me take this opportunity to ask you a very simple question. All right. I think since morning, most of us have been hearing a lot about marketing platform automation, MarTech, personalization, hyper-personalization. I think somebody also spoke about micro-segmentation. I think there was a gentleman from Castrol, if I am not wrong, the lady from Castrol, she spoke about micro-segmentation. Tell me one thing, before all this, do you think the role of a technology is very important for marketing or marketing automation? Dylan, you want to take it first?
It's a yes or no question, right?
No, it's not a yes or no. It has to be elaborative.
Absolutely. I think the role for technology is all pervasive in every stream of work that we do across organizations. And why should marketing be any different? So to my mind, the role of technology is central to marketing, and we'll talk a little bit more about that during today. And it's only going to get more important.
Okay, and a little bit more contextualized to your business. Do you think technology is really playing an important role in your business, particularly at Reckitt Benckiser?
If you talk about the business, of course, I mean, you could not run the business, any modern business and large business especially, without technology. If you talk about marketing, it is definitely a big part of what we do now.
Okay, fantastic. Anshul, what's your opinion? Does technology really play an important role at PepsiCo?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would agree with what Dylan said. I think technology in that sense is very pervasive. And I think the reason why technology is so important is because what technology is basically doing is it's fundamentally changing consumer behavior, right?
Correct.
And basically marketing is all about, reaching out to your consumers, staying where consumers are. And what it is also doing is, what technology is doing is, it's enabling us to plot consumer journeys in a way that was never possible before, right? So it's an enabler. It's also a reflection of what consumers are doing, and therefore it's so important that it should be at the heart of everything actually, including marketing.
Perfect. Taking your example and taking a cue from you just said, do you think segmentation, do you think creation of cohorts, do you think creation of engagement models, does it really help bring the consumer closer to a brand like yours, PepsiCo? And this is a question to you as well, Dylan, but with you, Anshul, first.
So totally it does. See, the kind of brands that we operate on, right? These are not salience-driven brands. Everybody knows Pepsi, everybody knows Lay's. These are, true love mark brands in that sense. A lot of the marketing that we do behind these brands is really about driving deep engagement, driving deeper emotional connect with consumers. And I think what technology enables us to do, is actually to your point, segment those cohorts, where your communication is more relevant. It enables you to create and plot consumer journeys, as I said, create journeys with them that were not possible before, and therefore are a lot more deeply engaging. I could give you an example, for instance, we launched Lay's Sizzling Hot. It's a global platform, Lay's Flaming Hot, one of our most successful platforms globally. And when you are reaching out to people who we thought would be most interested in innovation like this, what technology and some of our first party data enabled us to do was actually find some of those cohorts. So we came back and said, people who would love a Lay's Sizzling Hot are people who are actually, a little more exploratory in life, people who are spice seekers, thrill lovers. Now technology actually enables you to actually do that segmentation, on digital. We do a gaming campaign on Lay's or on a Doritos or a Mountain Dew. It enables me to plot the journey all the way from discovery to, finding the brand in the, in the game, to the rewards that so that's the role that technology is doing.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Anshul. What about you, Dylan?
No, I think, I mean, I just echo what Anshul said. To me, and in bracket, with an example maybe, we have a hyper-targeting framework. That's what we call it. And what that allows you to do is to look at all the different segments that you could activate across the funnel, right from the top to the bottom.
Correct.
And that really allows you to drive, Anshul made the point of effectiveness, but also from a point of efficiency, right? There are many brands who don't necessarily have the same large budgets that a large brand like Dettol would have. And what that level of segmenting allows us to do, and that use of that framework allows us to do, is to target specific segments with specific messages, which allows you to get greater efficiency.
Perfect. Considering yours is more of aggregator-led, yours is more distributor-led, and looking at both of your organizations, in separate silos, do you see there is a complexity where cross-pollination of data to a certain extent helps you bring the consumer closer to your brand, or is it just another fad which is there in the market that we hear a lot? What is your opinion about it? Dylan?
No, I mean, we talked a little bit about that, Anshul and I, and we were talking about data is actually the point of aggregation, right? Because if you look at the consumer journeys today, they are far more fragmented than they have ever been. The choice of media available to consumers is a lot more, and data actually helps you integrate that and get you a complete view of the consumers. An example for that from our side is Durex, for example, right? It's a condom brand, and one of the things that the challenge that Durex was facing was that there were not enough conversations that were happening around not just condoms, but sexual wellness overall. And so Durex took it upon itself to have those conversations. Now, to have those conversations, you needed to integrate those conversations into what people are already talking about. That's where social media listening tools come into play.
Perfect.
You can then marry that with what marketing has always been good at, which is consumer insight and creativity, and put out a message. And today, Durex is one of the most followed brand pages on Instagram. And quick plug for Durex, if you guys are not following the Durex page, please follow the Durex page on Instagram. I promise you it's going to be worth your time.
I think there are a lot motivated in the crowd who would go ahead and use that. What about you, Anshul? What's your thought around cross-pollination of data across the platforms?
Yeah, no, so I would agree. I think the real power of data only comes into play when you're actually able to harness it across multiple touch points, and you're able to harness it across the organization in some ways. So again, coming back to a tangible example that I can give from PepsiCo, for instance, we've a few years ago we globally set up what we call as a demand accelerator function at PepsiCo. It's called DX, right? And it basically what it is, the role of the DX organization and supports marketing is to really build, granular insights that enable us to grow, across consumers, across retailers in a way that's very seamless. So for instance, what you can do is, and that's what we've done in many markets in the West, are actually being able to connect what we call as CDNA and SDNA, basically consumer data and sales data in a way that is predictive, that is, enables us to build better supply chain efficiencies, enables us to, service demand better. In India, for instance, we're using that data to do what we call as predictive ROI modeling. So what we are able to do is there's an ROI engine that supports us and that actually enables us to figure out data that we pull out from our own social media handles, data that we pull out from some of our sales data, from our portals, and we link that data in a way that we believe drives ROI efficiency better. So when I launch a campaign on I'll give you an example, Lay's Max. It's a variant brand that it's a slightly premium Lay's variant that we have. We did some ROI modeling and it told us that if you move the spends away from say television to digital, you'll get a better ROI on that one. And it's a strategy that's working for us, right? So that is where the power of data comes in. It actually influences decision making. It actually drives decision making in a way that improves ROI.
Awesome. This again taking a cue from your response, Anshul. You spoke of first party data. And I'm sure, you guys are quite privy to this concept of CDPs, customer data platforms. Do you think a platform like CDP really drives your demand, really helps get the consumer closer to the brand, really brings in that expectation within your marketing teams that, yeah, I need that control over that data on the consumer. Do you think a CDP really helps in that way?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, going back to the point I was making earlier, data is the only way in which you can have an integrated view of the consumer, and a CDP is invaluable to making that happen, right? So without a CDP, I don't know how you would be able to do that. So absolutely, CDP would be very integral to that. And actually, one of the things that we've done, and we've seen the power of that, was we launched a platform called Miracle Moms, sometime at the end of 20 and or middle of 20. And what we did was it was a platform targeting newer moms who are going to have babies who are pregnant or have just had babies. And we were able to onboard a million moms now. That's what we are up to. 1 million moms with the power of content, right? Again, the integration of marketing, right? With the power of content, we are able to onboard 1 million moms. And that's the value exchange that we were able to offer. And once you have the RPII in this case, you are able to then, retarget them, offer them a plethora of solutions. For example, Gaviscon is a brand of antacids that we have. It's actually not, it's the only antacid brand that is safe for use during pregnancy. And, for those of the people in the audience who've had the good fortune of delivering babies themselves, they would know that it's a need. Now, this is something that we could target very, sharply, leveraging the data that we had. So I think absolutely the role of CDP is central, and we want to kind of see how we can keep scaling it up from here.
Perfect. So as they say, data is the new fuel. What about you, Anshul? What's your thought on having a CDP in the system?
No, I think absolutely, and I think the reason why we are investing in, in first party and CDP is because we believe that, given the way technology and given the way consumer behaviors are, that's the only way that you can come closer to your consumers, right? So I think it is, to the extent that it enables you to come closer to consumers, it also enables you to, create more meaningful conversations with consumers, more deeply engaging conversations with consumers. I think that's the role of CDP. To me, again, I think I'll go back to the point that Dylan made earlier. I think depending on the evolution of where you are, I think in terms of what you need to look at, what I would call as 3 broad use cases around, CDP. One is around what I would call as essentially what Dylan called out around was efficiency, right? Where you eliminate duplication on reaching out to audiences, you do sharper retargeting, and that actually gives you media efficiencies. The second thing that I think, CTV delivers, enables you to do is really the second part of it, which is better segmentation. So you are able to create, much better segmentation, much more predictive segmentation aligned to consumer behavior. And that's the second part of it. And I think the third one, what it enables you to do is really create what I call as consumer journeys or engagement models that were never possible before. Consumers are on multiple screens. And how do you therefore leverage the power of CDP to do some of that work is really the power. So I think those are the 3, if you ask me. And I just think this is, we are at the tip of, of this journey really. Looking at where India is, in terms of, as I understand here, India is actually at a per capita level, it's the highest per capita, not overall, highest data, is the highest data consumption market in the world. So just tells you there's a lot of rich data out there, and a lot of information out there for you to harness and really build a competitive advantage around.
Perfect, perfect. Considering your business, PepsiCo, is more, I would say, more acquisition-led, how do you feel, how is the complexity of creation of these journeys, creation of those engagement models? How are you, how are your marketing teams managing this? How are they doing it? Could you share some thought on it, some insights on it?
Yeah. So I think one is, and it's a great point that you made, I think the one watch out, the one caveat is, with the complexity around you, I think it is important to really try and simplify things at some level. Because if you do not know what you're running after, even the most sophisticated models and metrics will not help you. So I think learning what you need to focus on and learning what you need to disregard is equally important in that sense. So I would say, and that's a message that I have for my marketing teams, that I think what you need to do is spend 70% of your time in understanding what are the metrics that you want to influence. And the rest is white noise, right? In that
But is
sense.
that evolving? I mean, does that evolve over a period of time?
Oh, it does. It absolutely does. And in some ways, you learn. I think that's an ability that marketers will learn or will need to learn, on going forward.
Must be giving nightmares to your marketing teams. I can absolutely agree with that.
I mean,
To you, Dylan,
about
yeah.
we talked about that a little bit, right, Harminder, before that. At the end of the day, our model is always going to be acquisition led, right? We are fast moving consumer goods, and that will mean that our acquisition cycles will always be faster. And one of the things that we will have to always rely on is aggregation, right? Points of aggregation. Focusing on the points of aggregation also means that you have to deal with the clutter at all those points of aggregation. So to me, the acquisition task is always going to be prefaced by what is the level of clutter that exists at the points of aggregation that which you can meaningfully then disrupt, right? And again, as has been the theme for this session and throughout the rest of the day, data can really help you define that.
But does this theory hold true for your business as well at Reckitt, considering yours is more retention led? I mean, does it really hold true for you?
No, I mean, we are still on a, while our brands are on a monthly cycle, our portfolio is vast. So on the one hand, you have Dettol soap, which is a monthly purchase item, but it's still monthly. It's not like Shashank was talking about a car that you buy once in 5 years, right? So, so for us, the cycles are important. Acquisition will always continue to be important part of our strategy. And then of course we have a lot of brands, Durex being one of them, Gaviscon being another, Strepsil being another, which are all discrete purchase occasions. You never know when the demand will be needed. Right? We hope some of them are never needed, but if you need them, then our products are there. And for those occasions, it's pretty much the same as Anshul's business.
Acquisition.
Yeah.
Great. Tell me one thing, Anshul, for you particularly, considering your business is a little different from the traditional business that Dylan does. Is there a concept of an online and offline, or the concept of digital twins that exist in your business? If it does, what's the impact of that on the journeys and the segmentations that you create? Is there an impact? Yes, no?
So I'm sorry, I missed the last part. You said it's between online and offline?
So is there a concept of an online and offline, or the concept of digital twins that persists in your business, in your scenario, in your industry?
Yeah.
Does that have a cascading effect on the kind of journeys that you create and the complications that are associated with it?
Yeah, so I think I wanted to kind of clarify. I think I don't think fundamentally CPG businesses are very different from each other. To the point that Dylan said, they are acquisition-driven businesses. Whether it's business with a business like ours, which is has a much higher frequency versus for instance what Reckitt would have. But typically and especially for India, all these businesses are CPG businesses in India are still very penetration-driven. And so to that extent, there is there's a conversion journey from unpackaged, there's a conversion journey from recruiting people into the category, and so therefore it is all acquisition led. I wanted to make that point, and
yeah, and having worked at Pepsi, I can totally attest to that. By the way, Anshul is absolutely right. There are degrees of differences, but I think both our businesses are much closer to each other than, let's say, our businesses to cars, for example.
Yeah. To your other point, I think now again, to the other point that you made around between offline and online. See, I think the most interesting stories are created when you actually, when you integrate the offline with the online. And the reason I say that is because consumers today exist in hybrid worlds, right? Your regular consumers today exist across multiple screens when they're watching a match, right? They exist in a world that's essentially physical in nature, in that sense, right? Physical and digital in nature. So I think you need to plot those journeys, really trying to either follow the consumer or actually lead the consumer. So that's what you really need to be doing. So for instance, an outstanding campaign that, in fact, Dylan had run around, some years ago was the campaign on Smiles. So what it was we actually had, and Lay's really stands for joy in consumers' lives, right? The way we brought it alive physically, for instance, was on packs of Lay's. We had, consumer smiles, and those would take you, on a journey which was, partly physical, partly digital, but
Partly
engaging all
digital.
the way, right? That's the way engaging journeys are created. That's how you create brand love. That's how you really get consumers to.
That's how you build your brand affinity with a particular consumer.
What I'm
Dylan,
very-
for you, sorry, you were saying,
No, no, the
Anshul.
last point I was making was what I always tell my teams is, right, whenever you think of an idea, whenever you think of a campaign, always think of it as media to shelf. What is the manifestation of that idea, on media, and how does that link to the shelf? Because that's when you get the highest ROI, that's when you create the most interesting journeys.
Perfect. Dylan, does that hold true for you as well? I mean, does the
Since our
concept
time
of,
is up, I'm just going to say yes.
yeah, I'm sure they'll give us some more.
I mean, the traditional way to look at it is we are obviously in an omni-channel world. Discovery will happen at a different place. Purchase will happen at a different place. For what we have learned is obviously it works both ways. Sometimes the discovery is happening inside the store, physical store, and the purchase is happening online. That's true especially for a category like condoms, where we've invested, Durex has invested a lot in bringing the category to the forefront, but then given the biases that people have, the discretion.
Typically, the demand for which increased during the COVID
And
days.
then, of course, the reverse is also true, where people learn about the products, and that's true to the point that we're making. On marketing, we see a lot of that, but we are also obviously seeing a lot more of that in purchase as the omni-channel reality comes to life.
Great. And my last question is, both of you individually, what, as marketing industry luminaries, what keeps you both awake at night? Individually, please. Anshul, what keeps you awake at night? Or what keeps your transient marketing teams awake at night?
No, I think what keeps me awake is essentially, how do you really stay ahead of the consumer? For the brands that we are in, I think a lot of marketing, I think the best marketing happens when you're really ahead of the consumer. So, what is that nascent trend that you've not picked up yet, for instance, right? What is that nascent platform that you've not picked up? I think those are the things that really keep me awake, because that's I think the one thing that is the most, fundamental is that the rate of change has now moved to a level that is logarithmic, right? So that's what keeps me awake.
Thank you. Dylan, over to you.
What keeps my team awake at night is me, obviously. No,
I think that's apparent with all of us.
I mean, I just have to repeat what, we have to be with the consumer. That's, I think, that's, and the journeys are fragmenting so much. The pace of change is so much. I think how do we keep up with the consumer is probably the one thing that, keeps all of us up, and actually is also the reason why we go to office every day, I think.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anshul, and thank you so much, Dylan. Thank you for taking your time. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the lovely audience. Thank you.